Hey everyone, I've been thinking a lot lately about ways to make business communications, especially the visual side, really pop. And that's why I'm so excited about today's deep dive. We're going to be talking all about AI image generation.
Okay. Yeah, so cool.
Specifically, Google's Gemini 2.0 Flash experimental. And we'll be pulling from Tetsumemo's awesome newsletter, of course, as always, to, really get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Definitely. Yeah. It's some pretty amazing stuff.
I know. So, one of the things that really grabbed my attention from the newsletter was that Gemini just totally changes the game, right? No more messing around with those crazy, complicated AI prompts,
Right.
Instead, you just, have a conversation and boom, images start appearing.
Exactly. It's you can just talk to it and kind of explain what you're looking for, and it starts to understand and create, visuals based on your ideas.
Yeah, so it's like having a digital artist on call, but instead of, sketching and all that, you're just, chatting with them.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And one of the things that's really impressive is that it goes beyond just taking isolated commands. It's actually understanding context and, has this world knowledge, as they call it, built in.
Ah, okay, so world knowledge. Now, what does that actually mean? Does that mean it knows the difference between, a Tokyo skyscraper and a skyscraper? In New York, for example?
Yeah, exactly. It can distinguish between different locations, different styles, different cultures, and what's really huge for, anyone working with AI in Japan is it even handles text beautifully, including, Japanese text.
Okay, that is huge, especially for anyone who's, struggled with those English-centric AI prompts.
Yeah.
This could be a real game changer.
Totally, yeah. No more trying to translate your ideas into perfect English,
Exactly. Okay, so color me intrigued, but there's got to be a catch, right? It can't all be sunshine and roses. What's the downside here?
Well, so the free version that you can access through Google AI Studio, it does have some limitations in terms of the number of images you can generate, the size of the images, and the speed of generation.
Okay, that makes sense. There's got to be some trade-off somewhere, right?
Right. But even with those limitations, it's surprisingly powerful, especially if you're just using it for basic business needs.
Right. So, even with the free version, we're still talking about a tool that could potentially revolutionize how we approach visual communication.
Yeah.
Especially for those of us who, maybe don't have a design background.
Absolutely. Imagine being in a brainstorming meeting, and as you're discussing ideas, the visuals just start appearing on the screen in real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that would definitely make meetings a lot more engaging and probably a lot shorter too, which I think everyone would appreciate.
Definitely, yeah. And we're trying to explain abstract concepts with just words and hand gestures.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you've officially piqued my interest. Let's get down to the practical stuff here. How do we actually get started with Gemini? What are the steps?
It's surprisingly simple. You need a Google account first, and then you access Google AI Studio.
Okay, so far so good.
From there, you just, create a new prompt, select the Gemini model, and then boom, you're ready to go.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Okay, before we start, conjuring up images like crazy, Tetsumo mentioned something about safety settings in the newsletter. What's the deal with those? Should we be turning them on or off?
Yeah, good question. It's kind of a balancing act between creative freedom and, responsible use. Turning off those safety settings might give you more diverse outputs, but, you're ultimately responsible for the content that you generate.
Right, yeah, totally. I'm all for creative freedom, but obviously we want to use the tool responsibly. So let's talk about giving Gemini instructions. Do we need to learn a whole new AI language, or can we just talk to it like a human being?
Oh, you can absolutely just talk to it like you talk to a designer. Start with simple instructions using verbs like create or edit. For example, you could say, create an image of a business meeting.
Okay, got it. So no need to write a novel for every image.
Mm-hmm.
We can just be direct and conversational.
Exactly, yeah. And then you can build on that initial instruction, so you could say, now make the meeting in a modern office. Or even get more specific, make the office a Tokyo skyscraper with the morning sun shining through the windows.
So we're basically building the visual story step by step. giving directions to an artist. This is way more intuitive than I thought it would be.
Right, that's the beauty of it. It's like a real collaboration. And speaking of visuals, you have a lot of control over the style, the composition, the overall look of the images.
Okay, give me the details. What kind of control are we talking about here? Can we really get like professional looking results without, being a Photoshop wizard?
Fitsumemo highlights some keywords that basically work like quality boosters. So you can specify, like, if you want the image to be photorealistic or if you want something more stylized, like, say, a watercolor painting.
So it's like having a toolbox of different artistic styles at our fingertips, just like that.
Exactly, yeah. You can also specify things like lighting, so, like natural light or dramatic lighting, or even get into camera angles, like close-up or wide shot.
This is pretty amazing. It almost sounds too good to be true.
I know, right?
But remember those expert AIs we talked about a while back? Like, Fitsumemo hinted at the possibilities of combining their, like, specialized knowledge with Gemini.
Yeah.
So imagine, like, having a marketing visual expert AI working in tandem with Gemini. Like, that could be mind-blowing.
Right. The possibilities are kind of endless when you start thinking about those combinations.
Whoa. Okay, before my head explodes from all this potential, let's get practical again. What are, like, some quick tips for getting the most out of Gemini right away, like today?
Okay, so here are 5 power tips. Number 1, use reference images. If you see a style you like, show it to Gemini for inspiration. Number 2, provide instructions gradually. Don't try to give it everything at once.
Gotcha.
Number 3, keep things consistent with your characters and backgrounds, especially if you're creating a series of images. Number 4, ask for variations. See what different options Gemini comes up with. And number 5, always give clear feedback. Let it know what you like and what you don't like.
Those are great tips. It sounds like, we're really building a relationship with Gemini rather than just, barking orders at it.
Exactly. Treat it like you treat a human collaborator. Now, get this. Fitsumemo, he actually tested this out himself with some pretty amazing results. Like, he uploaded images of disassembled model parts.
Wait, model parts? Like a Gundam model?
You got it. And Gemini generated a 99% accurate image of the finished model just from those parts.
What? That's crazy. Okay, what else did he test? I'm hooked now.
All right, so he also experimented with image replacement. Like if you have an image of someone holding a box,
Yeah.
he seamlessly swapped out that box for a different one, and it looked totally natural.
So no more struggling with Photoshop to, like, change out product images or anything like that.
Right, exactly.
Okay, this is getting me really excited. Tell me more.
Okay. He even took a simple line drawing and turned it into a fully colored, multi-view 3D image.
Wow.
Showcasing, like, Gemini's understanding of 3D space.
I'm officially blown away. But wait, there's more, right? There's got to be more.
Oh, there's definitely more. He created a 30-frame animation of Goku, powering up and firing a Kamehameha wave, all in pixel art style.
No way.
Yeah. And it gets even crazier. He used 2 static images and some video software to transform a person into a cyborg.
Okay, that's incredible. I need a minute to process all of this.
It's like drinking from a fire hose, I know.
Yeah, it's like a fire hose of awesome.
All right, so we're just getting started.
Bring it on. I'm ready for more.
Ready for, like, even more Gemini magic.
Absolutely, yeah. After those mind-blowing examples, I'm really eager to hear about this line art powerhouse that you mentioned earlier.
Okay, so it's not just about adding color to, like, simple sketches, right? Imagine, seamlessly integrating backgrounds, special effects, even mascot characters, and beautifully rendered Japanese text, too.
Okay, so, like, I could take, like, a really simple light bulb doodle and have Gemini turn it into, like, a professional-looking infographic for my next presentation.
Yeah, exactly. Think about, like, social media posts, website banners, even product mock-ups. I mean, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
Wow, that is really cool.
And speaking of possibilities, Fitsumemo outlined how Gemini could, like, totally revolutionize, like, entire industries.
Okay, so let's get down to business here. What kind of impact are we talking about?
So imagine planning meetings, right? But they're transformed into these dynamic brainstorming sessions where ideas are visualized in real time, No more struggling to explain abstract concepts. You can just, like, show them.
They would certainly streamline things, and,
Yeah.
and I can already see how much time and energy that would save.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And consider the impact on, like, design workflows, No more spending endless hours creating multiple design variations. Gemini can generate them in like seconds, all from, a simple sketch.
So we're talking about a massive increase in efficiency, which allows designers to really focus on like the bigger picture, the creative strategy. But what about other fields like advertising and marketing? How could Gemini be used there?
Well, think about, rapid-fire storyboard creation, right? You can experiment with different tones, different styles, all at, like, lightning speed.
Yeah.
It's not about replacing human creativity, it's about empowering it.
Right. Freeing up creatives to focus on, like, strategy and innovation. Tetsumemo also mentioned, like, product development, presentations, even sales. What did he have to say about those?
So imagine, like, taking a rough product sketch and, transforming it into a polished 3D concept in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Or, presenting complex ideas with visuals that, like, make everything crystal clear, No more confusion.
Yeah, it really sounds like a game changer for communication, like across the board. But how do we actually communicate with Gemini to achieve these incredible results? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Mastering the art of prompting, that's key. Remember those 3 crucial elements, subject, context, and style.
Right, but give me an example. Like, how do we go from like a vague idea in our heads to a specific instruction that Gemini understands?
Okay, so let's say you want an image of like a business professional.
Right.
That's your subject. Now, you add some context, so you say a female business leader giving a presentation in a modern office. And then finally, you specify the style. So you could say something like, a 40-year-old female business leader giving a presentation in a Tokyo skyscraper's conference room with the morning sun shining in, showing confidence in her expression. Render this in a photorealistic style with soft lighting and shallow depth of field.
Wow, okay, that's incredibly specific. So the more detail we provide, the better the result.
Exactly, yeah. And if you want to go even further, you can even use like the language of camera work, know?
Camera work, now you're talking my language, but wait, I'm no Spielberg.
Don't worry, it's simpler than you think. So think about proximity, right? Like close up, medium shot, long shot.
Okay.
Then position, so eye level, bird's eye view, low angle. You can even specify lighting, like natural light, dramatic lighting, golden hour.
So we can basically direct Gemini like a film crew.
Yeah, precisely. You can even use terms like macro lens for like extreme close-ups or wide angle lens for like expansive shots. You can even add things like motion blur to create a sense of movement.
It's like I could say, give me a wide angle shot of a bustling city street at night with motion blur to capture the energy.
You got it, exactly. And don't forget about aspect ratio and style too, right?
Right, those are important too. What's the rundown on those?
So Tetsumemo recommends choosing the aspect ratio that, best suits your purpose. So square for social media, landscape for presentations, and portrait for mobile content. Those are like good starting points.
Makes sense. And what about different visual styles?
Well, it all depends on your brand and message, right? So photorealistic for like showcasing products, flat design for infographics, isometric for diagrams, and hand-drawn for like a more approachable feel.
So basically we should consider like our target audience and the overall look and feel that we want to achieve.
Exactly, yeah. And consistency is key, especially if you're creating, a series of visuals. And of course, we can't forget about adding text, right?
Text, okay.
Yeah.
How do we incorporate text effectively?
Well, Gemini gives you a lot of control. You can control placement, center, top, bottom, left, right. You can control the font, the weight, the size, even the contrast.
Oh, wow.
For Japanese text, you can choose vertical or horizontal writing. You can even specify specific fonts.
Sounds like we could like design professional-looking business cards or like flyers directly within Gemini.
Absolutely, yeah. Start with the image, then add the text, experiment with variations, and, give clear editing instructions.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tetsumemo also shared some tips for like boosting overall image quality too.
He did, yeah.
Do tell. How do we take things to the next level?
All right, so for a general quality boost, use terms like high quality, detailed, or professional, right? For photos specifically, try HDR, 4K, or Sharp. And for illustrations or art, you can use like detailed, colorful, or minimalist.
Wow, okay, this is a gold mine of information.
Yeah.
Speaking of gold mines, didn't Tetsumemo tease some even more like advanced techniques in his paid content?
He did, yeah. It's all about like, creating really compelling visual stories. He even walked through like specific prompts for creating a high-end product storyboard using the iPhone 16 as an example.
The iPhone 16, that hasn't even been released yet.
Exactly, right. The possibilities are limitless.
Wow.
But before we get, lost in the future, let's talk about the practicalities of using a tool like Gemini. Are there any potential drawbacks that we should be aware of?
That's a great point. Let's get real for a moment and discuss those considerations. Okay, so after that deep dive into all of Gemini's potential, it's time for a little bit of a reality check, right?
That's correct.
What are some of the downsides or maybe potential drawbacks that we need to think about?
Yeah, for sure. One thing Tetsumemo specifically cautions about is, data usage. Generating these, really high quality visuals, it does require some serious processing power. So, just be mindful of your data plan, especially if you're using the free version.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, especially for those of us who aren't always connected to Wi-Fi. You don't want to get hit with a huge data bill.
Exactly. Another thing to keep in mind is, when you're using Google AI Studio, your prompts and, the generated images, they could potentially be used to train Google's AI models.
Ah, okay. So the data privacy thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's probably best to avoid uploading or creating any sensitive information, just to be on the safe side.
Right. So basically common sense and data privacy guidelines apply, just like with, any other online tool.
Exactly, yeah. But even with those considerations, the potential benefits of a tool like Gemini, they're pretty hard to ignore, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely excited to start experimenting with it. Any advice for, someone who's just starting out with Gemini, where should they begin?
Start simple, don't try to create a complex animation right out of the gate.
Right.
Just play around with basic image generation, try different prompts, different styles, just to get a feel for how Gemini responds.
So treat it as a visual brainstorming partner, kind
Yeah,
of.
exactly. Yeah. And then once you're comfortable with the basics, you can gradually move towards more intricate projects. Try some of those advanced techniques that Tetsumemo talked about.
Yeah, for sure. It really feels like a whole new world of visual communication is opening up,
Right. And think about the possibilities for your business presentations, your proposals. Imagine grabbing attention with these, stunning visuals, explaining complex concepts with ease, and just leaving a lasting impression on your audience, right?
Yeah, it's like leveling up my communication game, but with the power of AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. That brings us to a really thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
What if instead of just consuming visual stories, you could create them effortlessly?
Yeah.
How would that change your approach to communication?
Yeah.
How would that change your business? How you present yourself to the world?
Mm-hmm. It's really something to consider.
It is. I'm definitely gonna need some time to process all this incredible information and start experimenting with Gemini myself. This has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for being such a fantastic guide.
The pleasure was all mine. Now go out there and create some visual magic, right?